By the way, anybody listening, feel free if you have some ideas about this concept, like the titles that are a question, people can feel free to answer them or share their views on it. But this notion of something being an invisible event, that means it's like you own a car you don't know about, but you just can't see. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like it's like you own a. Imagine like imagine you were like a billionaire who for 1 second, forgot they were a billionaire, and suddenly, it would be, it would be like suddenly an invisible event. Who am I? And then wait, the person remembers. That's ridiculous. The fact that we take psychology so seriously, but that we think it's the person, but in deep sleep, it's not even, there's no content to the psyche. So I would say, technically, existence can be said to be an invisible event when we are asleep, no? When we are sleeping, we still exist, but we're not conscious of it. So we can define an invisible event as per se movement without a consciousness to space. So there is something moving in space that doesn't notice it's moving, a part of the being, and there's some part of the being that is actually moving and the being notices it. Because honestly, when I think about how thoughts arise, if the body was seen, if the brain was, if the human being was seen to be an antenna, and let's take a stoic approach, that means your behavior was your antenna. Okay? Let's say your behavior was your antenna, your attitude in life suggested what signals you received from life. Now, this antenna, imagine being uh, how would I say it? It's an event that doesn't have a relationship in time. So you know what it's like. I don't know if anybody has ever written with a pen, where the ink of the pen has suddenly halfway through writing the sentence gone out. That's what the mind feels like. It feels like the ink is the elements, and the ink will run out after some point in the constitution. It is the biological program has to return to its source. We rise from the dirt and we also return to it. It is how we kiss the world goodbye, by returning to it. Kiss the individualism goodbye, you know. Many people don't realize death is the birth of the non-individual, because it is the only moment after being conscious as an individual where there is a complete, there is less information being defined. So when less information is being defined, movement can become like landscape. Imagine a surfer that the surfboard was automated. Imagine in the future, there's surfboards that they ride the waves. The person doesn't have to worry. As long as the surfboard has a battery, the person doesn't need to know how to ride a surfboard. The surfboard is intelligent. The surfboard is so intelligent that even if the person slips, the surfboard makes sure they don't, even if it's a meaningless slip, you know? So if that surfboard was intelligent, the person would no longer care about surfing. So you know what's fascinating? Technology is eradicating nature, not just nature, but natural behavior, the need for it. That means if surfboards become automated, then the surfer is gonna be like, what is this? Like what the fun leaves. When you can't fall from the wave, what fun is it? Imagine you went surfing and you could never fall. Would you have fun surfing? It would just feel like, you could just get on a hoverboard. We need the chaos and order to function as a character with growing dimensions. I don't know how a person can grow by just believing one image for the whole of life. Impossible. It's impossible to believe anything in a changing world. How are people believing things? You change. Even if the belief remains the same, let's say the belief doesn't change the next day, you change. So that means how you have believed the same belief is different. Because the you is different. So people fighting over beliefs is people fighting over paintings that they just see in that moment. That's all that it has been. People have been fighting over invisible art. We just call it language, and it sometimes starts wars or creates peace. Depends on how we use the blade. If language was, you can say a knife, you can use this knife to cut fruit, have a healthy civilization, or you can use the knife for dangerous activities. You see, it's like everything is a potential. You can say even your body is a weapon. Your physical body is a weapon. I don't know if people know this, but certain martial artists who have a certain degree in martial arts, if their penalty in street fights is more extreme because the person, it becomes like a deadly weapon when they know how to fight. Of course, anything can be deadly in this situation. Our ancestors, held giant. It's weird. They just found shiny metal and they killed each other. Honestly, when I think about war, I'm like, oh man, we should have made cyberspace. We should have made virtual reality quicker. Honestly, that if I had a time machine, I would just go and bring virtual reality technology. I would just come and put all those people who started wars. I'm like, hey guys, check out this simulation. Why are you guys fighting in physical reality where the consequences destroys millions of lives? Why not fight in cyberspace? You see, many people look at the concept of the evolution of the gaming sector, for example, to be something of entertainment. Let me tell you, many things were first for entertainment. Then once their value was understood, they began becoming used for professional things, and many things. You see many even items, and it's not even items. You look at the shamanic tradition, it's like you can say some people ate plants, some people they became plants. Technically, they shifted their psychology to that where the plant kingdom had arose. That means there's been moments where I've been in nature, silent and still, where I have felt more closer to the term I later on realized was like a druid. But that point was a creature of a natural phenomena where no language is needed. That means there's times where I'm like, why can't I see the spirit of nature? And then I giggle. I realize who else is the spirit of nature right now? Who else can be? Every person is the life of their moment if they realize it. That's why I'm saying you can pilot your attention. So if the mind is an invisible event, I made a note here and I said, what is the value of an invisible event, and what does that mean for creatures that their whole history is based on visibility? It's like it's like the whole history, the whole civilization, all our knowledge, everything we know so far is based on the visible. And Mr. Within, it's like, hey guys, what if there's some invisible stuff going on? What about that? Let me tell you, the person who wants to see it to believe it, let me tell you, you can only see something as long as your lifetime. That means all beliefs are temporary the moment the person doesn't exist. You're like, this person believed in this and that person believed in that. But both of them at the time, took them out. For me, I really have no enemies when I realized the concept of time. I wrote a story, I was so inspired by it. I wrote the story called A Conqueror Named Time. And it was the idea that there was this, many of my science fiction characters, I don't know why I was so inspired by the idea of chaos in Greek mythology. A lot of my characters in my works, there's at least one character named Chaos, you know? Chronos, you know? And so Chaos was this conqueror that had conquered the order of the world. This brutal Genghis Khan in this kind of fantasy story I was writing. This is all the story I'm sharing with you. The idea was that the father, his name was Chaos, and he had embodied his name. And then the father realized he had conquered everything except one thing. And he looked at his son who was to be the future king, and he said, he doesn't say it. He names his son Time, because he realizes time is the ultimate conqueror. That means, imagine right now, you've conquered everything in the world, and you're wondering what else is left to conquer, and you see time. Many people. Let me tell you, imagine Hitler, for example, had won. Imagine the Allied forces, uh, uh, it didn't work out. Imagine what would have happened to the psychology of a person of that with a dictator, with an ego of that brutal nature. He would probably conquer. Let me tell you what happens. It's like in any sport. For me, life is like really a game. When people understand this, they'll relax. If you don't understand it's a game, you will take it seriously and you'll forget that there's a dimension of observance required before analysis. You see, when the person messes up, they hide themselves. Have you noticed? When somebody is embarrassed, what do? They cover themselves or leave the place. They don't stand. They don't stand their ground. And I don't know, I could say that I feel we're oscillating between an invisible self and a visible world, and a visible self and an invisible world. Do you see? I feel when I close my eyes, I am an invisible self, but I feel the world. Do you know? So here's the thing, that when my eyes are open, I feel like a visible self. Of course it's visible, the visual senses are active. But when I close my eyes, it's as if it's like the outside of myself feels distant to me. And I often feel, like people who their senses have been tuned differently, could it be that they feel there are mountains of subtle information they're not receiving? For example, my grandfather on the father's side, he was colorblind. He would see in black and white, but his children all see in color. Do you know? But he sees in black and white. My grandfather used to see in black and white. Before he passed away, but like the idea was, though, that his perception was just, it was as if he didn't see color. But does that mean black and white is not beautiful just because color is missing? Right now, check out the attitude. There's all this talks on, of course, what's happening is population is increasing. Technology is helping the communication be bridged better between human beings. So what's really occurring is that for the first time, we're having a resurfacing of the inner lives of a species into its collective mind. So think about me sharing this talk right now. Think of in the future, if they connect if they connect the internet, let's say in the future, if you can connect your head to the internet, so technically it means I am speaking, the future will have access to my voice. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying that that it's like the future, this notion of an invisible event may be the only thing we can hold on to in the cyberspace domain. Because I'm thinking about it right now. I'm just trying to visualize what it would be like if I connected my head to the internet. Now, of course, so much information, so the first idea is like the cup is too small for this valve that's just open. So the first dangers of connecting the conscious human mind towards a greater information database is that if it can handle it. You see, it's just like weight. The child after some point can't like handle a weight. I remember myself being a little kid and certain things were so heavy for me, but then years later it was like super easy to move that thing. You know what I mean? So it was a sort of thing where in one phase, in one mode, it was it had a different story, and in another mode of the same event it had a different story. So right now, if someone comes in, dear listener, if someone comes and tells you, who are you? Let's say an alien. Let's say an alien from the sky landed down and it's like, hey, I don't know who human beings are. You're the lucky person I've chosen to ask. Who are human beings? Who are you? What are you? You will come to see that in your analysis, you will start from the visible event. But the visible event, due to the nature of there being more unknown than known, is always on thin ice. So you know what's unique about being on thin ice? The person knows before the ice cracks. Knows they are on thin ice. Do you see? So the thing is that I feel we are an artistic civilization. We are not real. There's no such thing as reality. There's just art. Let me tell you why. Because the inner realms of people are different. So you can say two people can see the same movie, but you think they saw the same movie? You think the movie had the same meaning for them? So what does that mean? That means we can try as hard as we want. We're not meant to be clones. So this whole equality and freedom and everything, that's crucial and necessary as a human right. But I'm telling you, we shouldn't get so blindfolded, or so we. Words find me. We shouldn't get fooled by a freedom that actually never needed to be shaped. You see, there are some things in life I can try. I could literally sit here and try to say them, and never. It's like it's impossible. It's like a sequence of experiences. It's a rhythm. That's why I'm telling you, there's so much more than just like linear, sequence-based knowledge. Oh, this led to this, led to this, led to this. No. Think of it as if like it's a vast multidimensional system where if you looked at things in regards to cause and effect, it would blow your mind how many minuscule, or how many levels of this existence things are being caused and having an effect. Even on a cellular level, even on a macrocosmic level in regards to cosmological level, you know? You know, I thought of this hilarious story, this idea, just this concept. Sometimes I do this in these talks where I go on these thought experiments. So I would say, I thought of this idea where the person suddenly gets an audience with the creator of the universe. And the creator of the person says, the creator of the universe is there, and the person suddenly notices God is giving him an audience, and he says, God, why did you do this? Why did you create all this? Why? You know? And it was in that moment where Suddenly the voice was getting ready to answer, and man was listening intently, and the voice said, I thought you could tell me, I don't know. Imagine if we realized there was no reason to phenomena. That I endlessly think of, why should there exist a bird? Why should there be birds? I honestly think about why a creature with wings. Why don't we have wings? Do you know? Like, it's sometimes when I think about existential design, the objective evolution, that means how there came the design of creaturehood fascinates me. The fact that I look at my fingers, look at your palm and go look at a leaf. I'm not joking. Go look at your palm and go look at a leaf, and you'll find similar geometrical patterns. Do you see? It's as if you can see your skeleton structure has a similarity to how a tree's leaf stems. Uh, yeah. So I'm telling you, there's something strange where it's not only from a singular dimension. I mean, the easiest thing to do is be like, yeah, it's one room. Even easier than that is empty. So these are the levels, I would say, to philosophical inquiry that keep getting more complex and interesting. First level, the easiest thing you can do is deny. Super easy. Super easy to say nothing. It's all nothing. I could look at this world and somebody says, what's the meaning? I'll be like, nothing, man. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. you know? And and you can also see, now that's the easiest. Complete nullification. Second, is that the person sees but doesn't accept. Let me see how I feel this model's missing a few lines. Easiest thing to do is nullify, zero dimension. Then we go to the singular dimension, belief. Belief is the simplest thing to do after, Then we have disbelief, the dualistic dimension. And then we have experience. That's harder than disbelieving things. Like, it takes a certain strength to disbelieve something you're conditioned into. But then it takes a greater strength to move into an experiential platform from beyond the conditioning of your own doubt. Do you see? So I would say it goes down towards the unknown. You come face to face with the unknown, and there's an inseparability of knowledge's purpose in an instant. Yeah, that's the residue. I could tell you that's, for me, the inner realms, the events have happened. Not, I wouldn't say like in the context of an invisible event. I mean, if visualization right now, me remembering my past, like a memory of my past, that's like an invisible event happening in an invisible room, you know? Okay, so of gold of one says, give an example. You mean of the invisible room? Sorry, you mean of the invisible event? I'll tell you an example. Right now, whoever you are, wherever in the world you are, imagine a cup of tea, hovering a cup of hot tea Visualize. Just literally, if somebody told you visualize a square in the sky or wherever you're looking at, you could even close your eyes for this, but like I would say don't close your eyes. Keep your eyes open and just visualize a cup of tea, hot tea with steam, just hovering in front of you. Just like a meter, like arms distance away from your face. Like imagine there's a cup of hot tea hovering right in front of your face. Okay, visualize this. Imagine. That's the term I'm using. Imagine. So why is it that you can't pick up that cup of tea and drink it? You see, it's not tangible, but its design is accessible in the visible domain to the visible, but it's not accessible. It's not like it's not tangible, I mean. So that's why I'm saying it's an invisible event. It's like it's multidimensional, guys. We should all relax. The world is multidimensional. we want to think. Here's the thing. Anything aside from it, infinity and duality, even infinity is too much. I would say duality is the only phase, only circumstance where individuals emerge. You need a light and darkness to set the simulation. So if people thought this world was a simulation, I would tell you, yeah, but it's not a simulation like the way, for example, Elon Musk says it. Elon Musk says there's 1 billionth of a chance that like video games become indistinguishable from reality. So how do we know we're not in a real video game right now? He says there's 1 billionth of a chance. You know, he shared this idea in a YouTube video I saw. But I would tell you, it's like if this realm was a simulation, I wouldn't give it to video. I wouldn't give it to technology. I would give it to light. If somebody asked me like what fascinates you more than the mystery behind language, I would tell you light. I feel light is geometrical information. I'm not joking. I feel light has sculpted genetics. So I'm just saying that you gotta be able to discriminate with your imagination, and because we've all been thinking we're creatures in one dimension, we have been incapable to discriminate between the inner realms and the outer realms. So when we actually behave, when we communicate to one another, we just think we are one thing, but the person is actually a complexity of a coagulation of all phenomenology they have seen, and what that even their free will is directing it towards, you know? Because it is just an event. Like the word event is so fascinating to me. Because it's like a celebration. It's like the cosmos is celebrating through higher forms of complex genetical design. Complex atomic design, you know? We're like, the forces of nature have sculpted us. You know, time has sculpted us. Society, civilization. I feel like when a person lives more than 10 years on this planet, you become too, like the concept of karma doesn't make sense. Because the karma becomes intertwined. That means what is the karma of an army of a battlefield when a dragon comes and like Game of Thrones kills all those people in that city or something, or the army men. So I'm telling you, it's a situation where if we want to individually solve the problem, impossible. Everybody's inner realm is different. If we want to collectively solve the problem, it will be possible, but the issue is because we're in our inner realms, we can't notice the collective. So every person has to take care of their individual domains of living and then somehow take strides towards what a collective emergence of human vision would be. Like there's something in mysticism that I see a lot of people speak about mysticism, but I feel they haven't confronted it. It's the chaos of It's the chaos of your own strangeness. It's honestly, this on and off switch, like, it's weird, isn't it? Like, I'm happy our species doesn't get a seizure with this constant light on and off light switch effect, you know. What it is, though, is that's everything. Our biology is designed by it, you know. That means it's a very good question. Is intelligence from the planet, or is intelligence happening on the planet? And I think this would take us to a similar point of view as Christ would say, to be in the world but not of it. What does that mean? That means you are in it, you are in the swimming pool, but you're not of the swimming pool. You're in the simulation, but you're not of the simulation. That means if somebody says, before light entered your eyes, what question did you have? That would be like a modern Zen koan. It's like, before you existed, how could you define your experience? You see, we can't. There is a breaking down of the linear system into just a river of ad infinitum ways to resculpt the angle, to just see from a different angle. It's like life moves on. That means even right now, like, whatever analysis I have on my moment, I could totally see. Like, look at how many of these talks I've given. It's not like the truth is not in language. The truth is not even a concept. So the fact that human beings have conceptualized truth, oh my God. And exactly, we conceptualized truth and the idea of God emerged. It was the attempt. For me, all ideology is artwork. I don't. For me, an idea is not good or bad. People can use things and use an idea in a different way. For me, language is a technology. That means when I see somebody, for example, in the street shouting and cursing, you know what that tells me? That tells me they don't know what they're doing with the technology of language. Because the technology of language is like a double-edged sword. Everything you communicate echoes in your subconscious. So if, excuse my language, but if you go to someone and say, fuck you, you know, like, then you're not gonna, you know, like, somewhere in the back of your mind, you might be sleeping gently at night, you know, just going, you know, tucking yourself in bed, feeling like, yeah, it was a, you know, glorious day. And then in the middle of suddenly, right before you sleep, you just hear like the echo back of the voice, you know, fuck you. And then you fall asleep, you know. So that's, I'm playing with the idea there, but I'm telling you, it's fragile. It's very condition based, and the condition is based on an unknown reception of the condition. That means the antenna is getting the signal, the antenna notices it's getting the signal, but the antenna has no idea where the signal is coming from. That's the mystery of consciousness, folks. Figure it out, and some billionaire in the future may give you $1 billion. That would be like the most generous billionaire, the billionaire that donated $1 billion. Can you imagine like a trillionaire like Oprah Winfrey, when she was giving cars in one show to the audience and like revolutionizing the psychology of those human beings, you know? The mind is something where I feel you should have a kind of mage, a sort of elementalist viewpoint of it. That means I have a relationship which I can say with the moment, that is, of course, the personal dimensions of the person. You know, I am not like the yogic school of thought where I'm like, get rid of the ego, it's the source of endless suffering, you know? Like, I'm not that intense. I'm telling people it's a technology. You need your car sometimes you don't need. You don't have to 24/7 live life as an ideology. You can just roam as an experiencer. Most of us actually do. Most of your life where you're just moving around places or trying to get to places, you're actually watching life. So what's fascinating is that it's like when we don't engage, we are in the cinema of our own life. So all those people who feel passive, who feel they can't do things or they need to look for some ability to be able to do things, it is you are the storyteller behind your eyes. And when you realize that, it would be a supernova explosion beyond stories. You know, there's this silly, super silly joke, you know? This guy goes to his friend, you know, and says, "Hey man, what would you do if you were in the middle of an ocean?" Okay, let me paint the picture different. Uh, this guy is waiting at a bus stop. They're all waiting for the buses. You know, this guy looks to the person beside him. He's like, "Hey man, what would you do if you were in the middle of an ocean and a shark was there? And you were in the middle of an ocean and a shark was there." And the guy says, "In the middle of an ocean, a shark? Oh my God, I'm gonna climb a tree." The guy says, "I'm gonna climb a tree." And the guy looks at him like you know that face where you look at someone like, "You serious, man?" And he says, "Hey, there's no tree. What tree? You're in the middle of the ocean. You know, you're in the middle of the ocean. What do you mean you're gonna climb a tree?" The guy says, "If there's a shark there, you don't get it. I have no choice other than to climb a tree." You know, and it was the suggestion that the intensity of the event had already made the person lock into a belief. Even though it's a silly joke, but I'm telling you, the idea of it has some sort of value in the sense that the experience is being interpreted anew. That means, think of it this way. Instead of the person thinking learning is something you do, think as if you're learning 24/7, just sometimes you're not conscious of it. Sometimes you are. You're just not learning from what you want, yet you are getting waves of information are hitting you. You know? Sometimes I go for walks, and when I go for walks, I just look at the city, you know? And it's very strange. The city has become a consumerist wasteland, and the land is not being used. You know, like it's so strange. Sometimes when I look at reality, sometimes I can envision if we thought 200 years ahead, we would have a totally different evolutionary path compared to if we thought 300 years ahead of our time. That means the depth of the idea and the brewing level of the idea, like that's the value of philosophy. Philosophy, it's like a kettle, and all the bubbles are all the human beings that actually have questions in this life. They see this life and they're like, "Okay, what is this? Where am I? Who am I? You know, what am I?" And then eventually you see you're the presence of existence, and it's strange because you dictate the meaning by your movement. That's why I'm saying you can't feel alive, you can't even control, you can't even notice your inner realms if you think you're a thought right now. You got to really sit down and wonder, how can you be a thought? How have people been in civilization thinking their thoughts, thinking they're having thoughts? They're thinking they are a thought, and they're thinking the thought is thinking. How can a thought think? Like this, I'm telling you, it has been an arrogance to how Rene Descartes actually meant, "I think, therefore I am." People misunderstood his quote. He meant that this dude doubted everything, and he realized he couldn't doubt the doubter, so there was an isolated thinking subject. This Rene Descartes was like the classiest guy who indirectly talked about the soul. You know what I mean? Like that means like the ancient yogis came and said, "Hey, it's a soul," and the Western mind was like, "Hey man, calm down. What do you mean soul?" And then Rene Descartes was like, "Guys, maybe our mind is a separate dimension than our body, huh? What if?" And then people were like, "Yeah, that's fascinating." But and all the people who said soul were like, "Yo, man, we were saying the same thing. What the fuck?" Do you see what I mean? It's just, it doesn't matter how you paint the picture. It does really, no two people can ever understand something in the same way. They can just see each other from the portal between them. So what I feel true love is not two people being the same person because they are seeing the same. Do you know what I mean? Because it can be abominations of dependency on the other. Now, some people have these behavioral patterns develop. Of course, it happens develops through relationship, the relationship psychology. Let's say a marriage. If you were to study a marriage, you know, to see. But I'm telling you, the idea of true love would be a sort of um, portal-like experience where you are seeing a universe, yet you are your own universe. So many relationship issues occur because the two members, the two couples, forget that they each have to put an effort to not only build their own universe, but to help build each other's. And then if they're so good at those two, they help build the universes of their children. You know? Because what it is we want a system that makes the efficient decision. The efficient decision isn't it has to have a sort of 50% an inner solution, something about you is being different, and something about how you see the world, how the world conducts itself is different. You know, that means an idea can only be said so long. Language is honestly me giving these talks. I sometimes I wonder. I'm like, who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? You know, maybe all the talks I'm giving, this is a direction maybe the world doesn't even take. You know, but in the way I have seen nature is that there is an event orchestration that's different. That means for what an event means to you as a self is different than what an event means to the whole world. So I would say it, just noticing the inner realms and the outer realms and noticing that imagination is an invisible event. However, the way we know it's an event because we see its design. So for me, imagination is literally like, there's these boats that have like this glass. They have this glass like at the, what do you call it? Okay, there are these boats that the people who sit in it, if they were to look at the ground, it was like a glass showing underneath the water. Okay? So I feel just like you put that glass on water, you know, it's just like that. That we see inside the aquarium, but we can't touch it. We can't put our hand in the water. We see the phenomena, but we can't put our hand in the water. You know? We see the pool, but we can't jump in it, you know. And the reason is because you can't identify as a physical creature, then want to live in a realm of abstraction. You'll suffer. Life is ultimately an effort, and the story you tell yourself suggests how with the speed you're going, your mileage. You know, you can say those people who feel everything is empty, they are going at 0 miles per hour. Those people who think they're going, everything is oneness, they're going at, let's say, 10 miles per hour. Those people who think it's duality, 20 miles per hour. Those people who think they're infinite miles per hour. Just I'm going based on the dimensions of the four dimensions, 0, 1, 2, infinity. And so if you want to wonder about infinite speed would mean the breaking point of the engine. So for me, of course, yes, on one level my death is death, it's death, it's the body's this stopping, but on another level, it is the pilot, it's liftoff. On another level, it is putting your foot on the gas pedal and being like, life, I saw everything you showed me, what else is there? And then you walk gracefully to the world that you have always been. For we are emergent properties of nature. Take that in, guys. We are not us. We are nature's emergent property. That means when Alan Watts said the world appled, it's just like how trees, the tree, so, like, trees apple, and the world peopled. So I'm going to say that it's not that the world peopled. It was an event before description. It was nature's secret voice. How space could shape form. It's honestly fascinating. Like, for a second I thought, imagine that we find a laser beam in the future, like this is a sci-fi product design idea. But imagine there's a laser beam in the future where you focus this laser beam on any inanimate object and it imbues it with a artificial personality for like a week. So I put this laser on the tree, the tree animates in accordance to some, I don't know, let's say some technological development by that time. So I'm telling you, for a second I was thinking, what if all the leaves on a tree began speaking and they were like, whoa, where are we? What is this? Why are some people falling? Why are some people hanging on? What the hell are these branches? Where do the roots go? Like, these would be all the questions that the human being is asking that leaf would ask if it was conscious, if it had a personality. Nature is really very fractal. We're in a fractal universe, and in a fractal universe it's strange because identity means it's a choice, if it can be anything. That means there's two ways. Either you have a choice, you didn't have the choice and now you have it, or you have so much choice that it's like, even if you don't use that choice, you still have it. You know what I mean? And of course, guys, we are world generators. That's what the brain is, really. That's what an event is. An event is like a scene. It's like a moment with its own beginning, middle, and end. That means, this is strange, but like for me, this talk has a birth and a death. And those ideas are archaic. Those are like, birth and death was like what my ancestors saw. I am choosing a different viewpoint personally. For me, there isn't life and death. There is the efficient effort, or inefficiency. It's really, I've reduced life to some degree to a binary level, but not a binary of an archaic morality of gods and, uh, fallen men. Like it's not a morality based on story. It's a direct experiential observance, and then the event has a voice. Its life is in the moment. Life has a voice. It is the mind of man that is too burdened by how he wants to hear it. Guys, I want to do something which I need the help of the audience. I want to ask a question, and I want anybody who's tuned in to honestly give an answer. Honestly. Forget my viewpoints or whatever. Just honestly give an answer to this question. How many people feel right now, listening to this talk, in this live stream that the meaning of life is happiness? Can I know this? If you do, please just say me, like happiness or something. I don't know. Give some clarification. You can say I do if you feel happiness is the ultimate meaning of life. Guys, I think the issue is people are typing so quick at the same time that it's lagging to load, I'm sure. anyways. Let's assume a certain percentage of human beings think that the meaning of life is happiness, okay? Let's say a majority of human beings do. It's not a bad model. It's a model though. It's an attempt. It's an attempt either from the void or from the infinite, but it's an attempt at the dual. So I would say think of yourself that you right now, whoever you're listening, you attained the ultimate happiness. Right now, not only had the ultimate happiness already found you, that you had been in this happiness now for eons. That means you didn't even remember what suffering was like. You have been happy for eons as an immortal being. Imagine. Imagine you were immortal and you were just happy. Yay, happiness, happiness. How long will it pass that you will no longer have a psychological analysis on the moment and you just want to see something else? The new is the meaning of the life. Novelty. Of course, I'm not saying that happiness is wrong, guys. Happiness is important. It's like water. You need to experience good moments in this life too, not just think you're on a battlefield all the time. But I'm saying the idea is that happiness, there's this notion I say too much freedom can become chaos. That means it's as if too much happiness, there is no dimension of growth. So whether you want your whatever emotion you have, you as a human being, your dimension of growth has to do with the entrance of new dimensions, of new perception. So you have to, just like you find food and eat it, the mind needs to is seeking to see what the world is actually. The mind requires vision. The mind digests information. The brain, I mean. It's like the person looked at the mirror and was like, oh my God, is neural activity being my personality right now? Like, who knew? I think we have to evoke a performance level. I feel regardless of the validity of the idea that there is other dimensions or not, our language is also already multidimensional. So many things have become multidimensional. Knowledge is all about branching out. It started from one idea, some dude saw some part of the picture, then another dude came years later and saw another part of the picture, another philosopher came, saw another part of the picture, and they all were constantly trying to compile. You see it. You see it that's how a lot of these philosophically minded people, they wanted to see what their comrades on the battlefield of the unknown were saying. So I'm telling you, regardless of your emotion, there is novelty as a dimension. So you could be as happy as you want. You can have nothing and be happy. You can have everything and be happy. You could be infinite and be happy. And you could, be like, it could all be singular. And so you don't know how powerful our inner realms are. Like I'm sitting here talking to of course, to a species that has endured 4 billion years of evolution. We've been literally, we've been 4 million years in the making, you know? That means it took me 4 billion years to give this talk to you. 4 billion years, guys. That's how old this talk is, if you want to know. Yeah. Here's the thing. Divide your life in levels and have this notion of endless endurance and see what happens, and you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised if you attempt to get a feeling of what the new is like. You're gonna go into a new rhythm. Think of it this way: we have the notion of the person falling into habit, a sort of loop of behavior, you know, and then we have the person. Let me say it differently. Let me say it, not a loop, because like you can't say eating is is bad. You know, I don't want to say eating is a bad habit, but I'm saying like it's not that habits are good or bad. It's just like certain things are essential, certain things are not. Certain things, they die quicker than the moment, and certain times, sometimes the moment dies quicker than the stuff. You know. For me, falling asleep is a strange experience always. That means I'm comfortable with it, but it's also an event. That means that moment where my eyes are closed, I'm like, okay, it's about to happen, it's about to happen, I'm about to go to sleep. I don't know. I feel this invisible event could be a suggestion that the mind is occurring regardless of the body's conditions. I feel just the fact that we have dreams is weird. It feels like the mind is doing something that's not necessarily needs to be visible. That means we're a creature that's designed not to be conscious of our senses when we're asleep. And it's strange because I have been like semi-asleep in rooms where I've had people enter the room, you know, when I was young, and then very young, and then I also have experiences where I've went to, like, you know, my brother's room to get something, and then he was asleep, for example, and you know, so I was thinking there's been times where I don't know, I could tell you. We are awake. That means if you insult someone in their sleep, they're gonna wake up feeling a bit as if something's off. Guys, these are hypothetical situations I'm fathoming, really. The mind is a movement, and it's a movement that different from different angles is being given a story. So you have your own angle, that's the faculty of consciousness, but you also realize everyone else is their own angle. Also, there's so many people who are going to be born in history who are going to have so many next level angles. That means some of the most interesting ideas, you know, they are here, we just can't see them. The future generations will. Do you know how many? I'm trying to see, like, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see as far as I can, and then I want to see how the future generations will consider how far I saw. That's the cool thing. I want to see how, you know, it's like you throw a spear at an unknown sky and you want to see what happens, you know, and sometimes simulations can break. Because when there is trust, you can move in this space. You know, just like the bond between family members and siblings, it's like they know each other, are familiar with each other's minds, you know? And of course, minds can change, and they inevitably do. You know, that means Uh, you see, when the person is younger, the world seems to be less complex, so they can simply access things. But as the person gets older, I feel there's more complexity thrown in regards to the analysis of the moment. So the person feels that this complexity is an addition that makes the simplicity of their youth, for example, not accessible. So I can tell you, be conscious that not only the world is telling you a story about what it is, but you're also telling yourself a story. And when you listen to these Mr. Within talks, Mr. Within is telling you uh, beyond language, there's more. There's more beyond the language threshold, and we're on the brink of realizing that we are actually how we are. It's like if we did have some sort of existence in a higher dimension, it would be as a field. It wouldn't be as a person. It wouldn't be as a character in a story. That's my way of looking at it, at least. Whew. Could the mind be an invisible event? To be honest, the ultimate mystical answer is that it's not even an event. But the secular answer is it's like an event is as how far we can go with holding on to time. Beyond an event-based psychology, I don't know. There would be no time. That means when there's no time, there's no personality. When there's time, there can be characterhood. Okay, so Dan says, uh, damn, seriously, our gaining minds are deep in our culture. Honestly, I read books on Zen for almost 2 years before I had the guts just to sit and meditate. Um, I had to be sold intellectual on what I was buying first. Daniel, let me tell you something. What you are saying is, let me tell you, you had to. You say you read books on Zen for almost 2 years. You have people in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days, exactly that amount. They go and sit in a shed in the mountains, and some person brings them food, and it's not a shed, like some sort of cave or like some sort of, not cave, but like some sort of, I think, shed. Somewhere, some place, and they just sit there in silence every day. Can you imagine, for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days not doing a single thing? Now, the legends in yoga had it, these yogis in India, they would go like, some of them would be so still as if like the earth would, they would become part of the earth. That means they would leave their body before, like, there would be a different approach. Anyways, guys, just a second, I'll be right back. So, Daniel, that's the point I wanted to make. That I don't call it even meditation. I just go sit still and watch the moment. And then it's like a pond. Like you stop throwing rocks in it, it settles. Then you abide. You are something before you need to be something. And then there's an emotional, intuitive trust that just takes the steering wheel at that point. It's the remembrance of your own awareness before the self. Usually people think they're the self before becoming acquainted with their awareness. You know, that's really what the inner realms is when I say it's an event, because where's the event happening? You know, so you can say the same way there for matter there is space, for self there is awareness. So awareness is your experience, which is your existence in space. Experience is existence in space. I'm just trying to say that we have to wonder if we are more than just an idea, and what it really means to be an individual in a changing world. Like, you know, are we changing at the same time the world is changing and everybody's just cherry picking their identification with what the moment has to be, or is there more, you know? So, so I'm telling you guys that, listen, you're a natural being before you're an ideological construct. So release yourself from having to stay loyal to an idea that does not see you. Do you know there's a lot of some ideas a person could believe in, but they will realize that that belief is actually stopping them from being a person. So the belief can stop your nature, believe it or not. You know, there's this thing where I think it's Rumi. Rumi is saying me and Hafez are still on the first street of this city of God, and something like that. And Attar, this Sufi mystic that was beyond both of them, has been to the seven cities of love and back. That means it's like there were some beings roaming on this planet, human beings, but they did not see their humanity first. They saw their beinghood. They saw how they were being before they were the information, they were the view, they were pilots of their attention. They were the roars of nature's presence beyond the boundary of the unnatural. So, thanks for listening, guys. I guess I can end the talk here. I'm going to share a Discord link uh, for people to join the School of Athens discussion, School of Athens 2.0 discussion, voice chat group or whatever. So, and I'll join you guys in a little bit, whoever's. Sorry, guys, I'm just getting the link. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna relocate, and I'll be in the Discord for a little bit. You know. So thanks for listening. anyone who's listened so far, the talk's ended at this point, and I'll see you in the Discord. Blessings.